And welcome to the Tony Scott Internet Show. I would be Tony Scott. Hey, how are you? How was the weekend? Was it good for you? Saturday night, I was here by myself at the house and was able to binge watch actually Friday night, my wife and I, we binge watched and caught up on The Blacklist, and then Saturday night I was by myself and I binge watched and caught up on NCIS Los Angeles. So I'm all up to date on this season. I'm good. So, and then of course yesterday, the Rams, man, 13-10 over the 49ers in San Francisco. Some people say the 49ers got done wrong. There were a lot of bad calls in that game. Lots of bad calls, but at the end of the day, Colin Kaepernick, the quarterback of the 49ers, he either didn't get in or he fumbled the ball, and they went with the fumble. Rams recovered, 2 seconds left in the game. It was a wrap. Rams win. They're now 3-5. 49ers are 4-4, so we're only a game behind the 49ers for, I believe, third place? Because the Arizona Cardinals are just 7-1. They beat up the Dallas Cowboys. Tony Romo has like a couple of broken bones in his back, so he's not going to be playing anytime soon. Man, that NFL, though, as you know, football in general is a rough sport. I don't know if I would allow a son of mine to play football because it's just so brutal. Athletes that play football are so much bigger and stronger than ever. And I don't know, man. Could it solve a lot of financial issues? Yeah, it could, but some things are not worth the money. I gotta be real honest with you. Just one of those things. Anyway, here we are on Monday, and found out over the weekend that via the Associated Press, don't know if you heard this or not, that back in August, with the Michael Brown uprising that went on in Ferguson, on August 12th, the morning after the FAA imposed the first flight restriction. Here's the bottom line. It was a way to keep the media out. It was a way so the media would not be able to report just how militarized, how much they were like the military, the police. They didn't want the media to see that. They didn't want the public to see that. But what they didn't know is that social media brought all this to the forefront, right? Now, I do remember, and maybe you remember too, there were a couple of nights, maybe more than a couple, where you couldn't get on the internet if you lived in Ferguson, parts of Ferguson, near that area. There was no internet connection. It was turned off. Charter was on the blink in a lot of cases, and people were accusing those companies of doing that on purpose, so it's not for the message of what was going on in Ferguson to get out to the masses. But you just can't do that with social media. It's just impossible to do because somebody's going to call somebody and somebody's going to take a picture. And now, man, they're streaming live video down there. Young people have been on top of technology from day one, and they've been implementing it in this situation, which I kind of think is a good thing. We're supposed to have a free and open press. How do you get away with granting a police request to restrict more than 37 square miles of airspace around Ferguson for 12 days? How do you get away with that? When we have the press, freedom of the press. How do you do that and explain? You can't say it was a safety issue. That's what they'll say, though, and then we'll have to accept it. But that's just wrong, man. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do that. Tomorrow is election day, and hopefully you are going to vote. It is said that the Democrats are in real danger of losing the Senate. Is it the Senate? Take your ID with you when you vote. No, you don't have to show it. Take it anyway. Don't give them a reason to turn you away. I'd go with the paper ballots. I don't trust those electronic machines. There was a report last week of a politician who went to use a voting machine, early voting, and when he pressed his name, his opponent got credit for it. See, I don't trust those machines, man. Technology is a wonderful thing, but they ain't quite figured that one out yet. I don't like it. I wouldn't mess with it. I'm just saying. But take your ID. If you ask for a paper ballot and they say, well, we don't have one, or we don't have the one you need or something like that, stand your ground. Tell them I'll wait. Be respectful. But hey, and this is the thing, and I mentioned this on Friday, that the politicians are the ones who govern robocalls and, telemarketers and things like that. And they give themselves a pass. So you can tell like a telemarketer, don't call me anymore, but you can't get the politicians to stop doing that. What is the solution to that? I didn't have an answer Friday, and I thought about it all weekend, still don't have an answer. How is it, if they police that and they're not going to police themselves, how do we fix that? How do we do that? Do we boycott an election? No. Can't do that. No. We need to start paying more attention to the candidates, though, and hold them accountable. Saying, hey, you guys need to figure out a way to police yourself, because between the robocalls, the commercials on the radio, the commercials on television, my goodness, they just turn your stomach. It makes you not want to vote, although in the big picture, we have to vote. One of the great things about, like when I was getting the last couple of weeks of watching my NCIS LA binge, was I was able to fast forward through the commercials because it was on DVR, because I just do not want to see that. It just turns my stomach, and I don't want to see that. KMOV locally here in St. Louis, Channel 4, on their website had like 5 voting suppression tactics used before elections. And it was pretty interesting. If you want to check it out for yourself, just go to KMOV.com. Election date change is one of them. They changed the election day. Intimidation, arrest threats, change of polling location and hours, and the do not vote messages that seem to rear their ugly head every election time. So those are the 5 right there. You can go to detail at KMOV.com. So I got to be honest with you, because I've just always told you the truth. And my website is down, and my feed that lets me put my podcast on iTunes is down, because I had to cut it out of the budget. I'm not working right now, don't have an income, so I had to make some tough choices the last few days, and those were a couple of them that I had to pull off the website, and one of my podcast services. I can still use a Spreaker, and I can still use YouTube. So if you are looking to catch up with me, that's where I would be. Of course, if you're listening to this right now, you already know that. But Spreaker and YouTube for right now, because that doesn't cost me anything. But the other ones I had to take down just because, the money ain't there. And I got to make tough choices. And taking care of my family comes before anything. So that's just how that turned out. Dude in Alabama got sold out by his dog. Did you see that story? It happened in Alabama. His dog Bo busted his master, right? Edward Melvin Henderson. Police went to search his home with a search warrant. And Eddie took off and went toward the wooded area behind his house. And Bo, who was a mixed pit bull and husky, ran after Eddie. And they lost them both. But then they caught up with the dog, and the dog was just standing there with his tail wagging, because he had found his owner hiding in some tall grass. He was just wagging his tail. Yeah, I'm with my boy, right? Dog, what does the dog know? So they went into the tall grass, and they snatched Eddie out of there, took him into custody, thanks to Eddie's dog, Bo. They found, by the way, at the house, methamphetamine and components from a meth lab. So he's charged with failure to obey police, 2 counts of unlawful manufacture of a controlled substance, and possession of drug paraphernalia. Bo, he's with relatives and he's doing fine. Eddie, you're stupid. I felt kind of bad last week when I read that Sister to Sister magazine had filed for bankruptcy. I was like, man, because the print media has been taking a beating for quite a few years now, and black media, print media especially, it's really tough. And to see that they had filed for bankruptcy. But then I read over the weekend, that's not true. They did not file for bankruptcy, but they're not printing a print edition. They're just going to concentrate for now. The print edition is on hiatus, and they're going to push the digital issue, which is, online, which is what a lot of companies are doing these days, is pushing the digital platform because you can do so much more. It can be more interactive. You can comment on stories. You can watch, read, listen. It makes it more interactive for the consumer to do. Whether that situation is going to rely only on ads or there's going to be a subscription model, I'm not sure. But I'm happy to hear that Jamie Foster Brown did not file for bankruptcy. Not saying that she won't, because I don't know her situation, but I'm glad that story wasn't true last week. There's some trouble with the hot car mom. Remember the woman in Arizona? And she had left her kids in the car because she went in for a job interview and she got caught and her kids were taken from her and it was a big thing. And then, the outrage over that, which what she did was wrong, but she was trying to better her life and she didn't have anybody to watch her kids and she had to do this job interview to get the job so she could take care of her kids. It was just an ugly cycle and it didn't seem like there was any off-ramp for it. And while all this was going on, a woman named Amanda Bishop created a page, a fundraising site to help this woman. And so over $100,000 was raised. So when her case came up, the court looked at that fund and they made a deal, apparently, with the woman. The last name Taylor. I can't think of the first name off the top of my head, but Shanisha. There you go. Shanisha Taylor. And they told her that 2 Class 3 felony child abuse charges would be dropped if Shanisha performed a checklist of things. And top of the list was that $60,000 of the monies that she had, over $100,000, would be used to set up a trust fund for her children's education and child care expenses. She also had to go to parenting classes. Now, if she didn't do these things, the charges would be reinstated. So last week, Shanisha went to court and she could not prove that she had set up the fund. She told the court that she could set up $35,000 in that fund, but because of publicity surrounding the case, she was having trouble finding a job. Her lawyer says, my client still wants to fund the trust fund. It's just a matter of being able to survive and still live off of these trust funds and still get a job in the future. Now, Amanda Bishop, who set up the funding site, that there were several job offers that came in for Shanisha during the fundraising period, and she forwarded them to Shanisha's attention, but doesn't know what became of them. So there's a follow-up hearing in a couple of days. She'll have to present bank statements and account for the money that came from the donation fund. Now, if these charges are reinstated, she'll be a felon, and she's looking at about 1.5 years. When will this nightmare end? When will it end? When you look at her situation, and she's got $100,000 in donations to help her, but she can't get a job. So the cycle still hasn't ended. But her kids, they need to eat. They need to sleep somewhere. They're basic things she needs. So maybe she went into the funds. I don't necessarily know if you can actually penalize her for that. What was she going to do? She can't get a job. The job market was already bad, and now you're going to penalize her because of her notoriety. She can't get a job, and it's just a cycle that won't stop. Now, this is what I read over the weekend. I don't know what, I'm assuming that she's a good person and that she didn't get caught up with that money that she had made available to her, $100,000. And I'm assuming she's doing what she had to do. I mean, if she showed up in a new Beamer and to court that was her car, well, then there's going to be a problem. But we'll find out on Wednesday when she goes back to court. Man, it don't stop for her, though. We talked last week about Tamika Tiny Hair, T.I.'s wife, Tiny, getting her eyes done. She had the color changed to ice gray or something, I think is the official name of them. And she was getting all kinds of criticism. She had put pictures up on Instagram and had to take them down because she was catching all kinds of heat for that. We talked about that last week. Another woman, Beatrice Murillo, did the same thing, and she's blind now. Now, that surgery is not legal in the United States and Canada. So Tamika went to Africa to get it done. Beatrice went to Panama to get it done. And the woman is from Toronto. That's why I said it's illegal in Canada. And she wanted to change her eye color. $8,000 procedure. They put like a silicone disc on top of your iris to lighten the color. In her case, she lightened it from brown to green. I guess you have choices. And this happened a couple of years ago. Beatrice, 2 years later, started feeling pain in her eye, like some knives were stabbing them. And there was pressure in her eyes and stuff. And she tried to fix the problem. She had 2 glaucoma surgeries. She had a cornea transplant. Her body rejected it. Now she only sees like shapes, vague shapes and colors. So she's legally blind now in both eyes. She can only count fingers if they're really close to her face. It's article I read said it's actually worse than being legally blind. It's pretty bad. Man. And Tamika was being criticized for, what kind of message she was sending out, things like that. And she had a response for those folks, too. She told Deborah Roberts from ABC News.
I just wanted to do something different. And I have the right to do that. It's my body.
Your husband initially said this is sort of crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of like, what are you doing?
What does he say now?
I mean, he loves them. He's okay with them. As long as they're, healthy and I'm not having any problems.
Well, she's right. It's her body. She can do what she wants. Social media can be very ugly sometimes. There was some comments about her not having self-esteem, some self-esteem issues. You don't know that. You don't know this woman. And people are to make that leap that she has self-esteem issues when you don't even know her. It's easy. I'm guilty of it. I do that all the time. And it's just wrong. Some things seem to be pretty obvious. Is it pretty obvious? Because last week I talked about self-hatred. I was asking the question, is that self-hatred? Some people said, yeah. Some people said, no, it's her body. She can do what she wants. T.I. thought she was crazy to go to Africa. And she said it's like 10 minutes per eye that they do. And I don't know. She got tired of putting on the color contact lenses. She just didn't like the color of her eyes. So she did something permanent. But now, does she look kind of exotic? Yeah, she does. But let's see. She's had a butt lift. She's had boobs. She's had eyes. This is what we know. What we don't know, we don't know. But that's crazy. Would you do that? I wouldn't do that. These eyes I got, this is the one I'm going the rest of the way with these, y'all. I don't know about you and how you feel about your eyes, but I'm going the rest of the way. So details are starting to trickle out about the gospel singer James Fortune and his arrest last week. And it seems to revolve around domestic violence. Again, 12 years ago, he pled guilty to injuring his 4-year-old stepson. This time, he's accused of allegedly beating his wife with a bar stool. The charge was aggravated assault of a family member with a deadly weapon. Now, it's kind of hard for us to believe that someone who, the public life is the gospel singer and a follower of Christ and all that. And he may be. He just may have a problem. I don't know. Maybe he has anger issues. I don't know. Is it self-esteem? Hell, I don't know. I don't know. Back then, he was, let's see. Let me read this here real quick and say the wife's leg or pelvis may have been fractured or broken, is what her attorney says. Well, it's not her attorney. He's the attorney who represents the stepson. At that time, when he pled guilty to injuring his stepson, he got 6 years of deferred for punishing his 4-year-old stepson by putting him in scalding hot water. They also got 3 children together. He's out on bond. He is looking at 15 years. But do you go to jail for that? Yeah. You beat somebody with a bar stool? You fractured their pelvis or their leg? Yeah, you go to jail for that. And you've been down that road already. You pled guilty to doing it to a 4-year-old. What makes it impossible to think that he could have done that to his wife? He admitted putting that 4-year-old in scalding hot water. He admitted to the abuse years ago. So he's an abuser. All right? He's an abuser. He's a gospel singer, but let's call it like we see it, y'all. I mean, come on. Is it impossible that he could have done this to his wife? No, it's not impossible. Is it probable? Yes, it's very probable based on, does one incident make it a pattern? If he beat her once with a bar stool, that wasn't the first time that happened. You can say he's a man of God. He's a woman beater. He's a child abuser is what he is, who happens to sing gospel music and who happens to have a national radio show. Let's just call it what it is, man. James Fortune is in trouble for allegedly beating his wife with a bar stool after 12 years ago, injuring his 4-year-old stepson by putting him in scalding hot water. That's bad, man. Hey, did you see Prince on Saturday Night Live this past Saturday night? Now, I'm an old school head, right? He did not sing anything old, to my knowledge. What he sang was stuff I'd never heard. That's on me. I'm not criticizing him for that. You know, you can't expect him to sing his old stuff when he's trying to sell new stuff. I get that. I just didn't get what, the reviews were like, man, that was awesome. That was the most awesome 8 minutes of television ever and stuff like that. I was like, I'm out of the loop, right? Because I'd have been happy with the, guitar riff in Purple Rain or something, nothing. No, When Doves Cry, 1999, Controversy, Diamonds and Pearls, nothing. I have no idea. And then those stupid sunglasses he wears. Okay, so his girl group is called Third Eye Girl. I don't know what the hell that means, but so he has these sunglasses on, and the middle part above that is another lens. So he looks like he has he's covering an eye on his forehead, which he just looks ridiculous with that. But Prince, I did notice. Did you notice that he was not wearing those stilettos, those platform shoes he used to always wear? I mean, he used to, and I think that was part of the reason why he had to have a hip transplant years ago, because that takes a beating on your joints. Walking around and stuff. He was dancing, doing splits, jumping up and down. That has to have some kind of effect. You know what I'm saying? And he had on flats. I hate saying that but he did. He had on flats. I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend, but he had on flats. What? But the performance. I mean, if you're a Prince fan, you knew what he was doing. I mean, if you're a serious Prince fan. If you're a fan of his old stuff, you had no idea what was going on for those 8 minutes. Although he was rocking out, I give him that. But yeah, did I like it? Not really, because I didn't know what the hell he was singing. So that's just me. Usher says that his son told him that you're not really a good singer. You're not really that great. I'm not feeling you. I'm just his son. What's his son? Is it Navid or Navid or Navid? I don't know. It's Nayvid. He's gonna be 6 next month. And he said, you're not a great singer. And Usher was like, what? I am a great singer. Sounds like, you know what? Not so much. Now, his son Cinco, who was Usher Raymond V, I think they call him Cinco, right? Cinc, whatever. He loves Usher's dance moves. So, but we've all been insulted. I got it. My youngest daughter, Maria, when she was a tiny, 5-6 years old, she went to a party that was at some place where they have, like trampolines and stuff and all that stuff. And I took her and I picked her up. And on the way home, I said, did you have fun? She said, yeah, I had a great time. But you know what? I said, what? She goes, a friend of mine asked me if you were my grandpa. Oh, man. From the mouth of babes. My self-esteem? Yeah. I can roll with stuff like that. I'm fine. I'm fine with who I am, what I am. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm trying to get you to listen to and watch my content. But as far as trying to impress the ladies and all, no, man, I'm married. I don't want to impress. I want to impress one woman, and that's my wife. I want to impress her each and every day. In every way, shape, form, fashion. I want to be the best husband, the best father, her best friend. I want to be everything to her, her biggest cheerleader. I want to be all that. So I ain't got time to be trying to impress any other woman. I just think all my efforts are on one woman, and that's the woman that I said I wanted her to be my wife. I'm madly in love with this woman. I love her more than anything, and I can't imagine my life without her. But, chasing other women or wanting to impress the ladies, nah, I'm good. I'm fine. I don't need all that. All right, I'm going to leave it right here. And thank you again for listening. And if you could share it give it a thumbs up on YouTube and subscribe to the channel, that would be awesome sauce. If you could share it on Spreaker, that would be great too. And like I said, I appreciate everything that you're doing for me. Get a lot of great feedback. I get emails over the weekend and saying, this, that, and the other. And I appreciate every last one of you. So thank you so much. Maybe I should do a segment where I read emails on the show. I don't know. It's still an evolving thing. I'm trying to work in phone calls I'm working on that, so I'm always doing something. But again, I appreciate you, man. Love you all. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.